Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from KeyboardImprov.com, and welcome to day 12 of my 31-day Jazz Piano for Beginners Workout Challenge. And these are the kind of piano lessons that I always love to have because there's so much information out there. And right now, as we know, we're overloaded with information, right? So this is about doing it, using what we have. And this, even when I was studying with Billy Taylor or Harold Danko, another great pianist, it wasn't about just content. It's like, hey, let's trade fours, let's jam. If there was two pianos or even just at one piano, or even I play and then they play, I play and they play. Because I always use that as an opportunity to absorb the music. We don't get a chance to jam or gig with musicians that are way more experienced with us all the time, right? Because unless you're the leader, and pianists can be the leader. So you get a gig, then hire the more experienced musicians to play with you, right? That's how you do it. But a lot of times we're playing with our peers or people slightly above or slightly below. That's great. But this is a chance to do that, just like those piano lessons were for me. So thanks for being here. Today we're going to, I'm setting the timer for 20 minutes. Today we're going to go to the key of F. We started it yesterday. And we're going to explore it in a few different ways. We're going to continue with that continuous line. We started with the whole notes yesterday. And then we're going to look at left-hand comping rhythms, just an overview of the left-hand role in jazz piano. And then just playing what we hear, continuing it. Thanks for the comments yesterday. People are really responding. You're really responding to this, playing what we hear, simplifying as a possibly even temporary stage to really focus on establishing this connection between our brain, our ear, and our fingers and the sound and the instrument. So it's all one unit, like riding a bicycle or something. By the way, thanks. Several days ago, I asked people to comment on their favorite jazz musician or one of their favorites, and it was great to see the give and take, and some of you commented on each other's and liked each other's. So let's do another one today. That's a favorite jazz recording of yours, something you love. And it could be a whole album, but people aren't really going to check out a whole album these days, just from a comment. So maybe a particular track on that album. And I'll just go first, something I was listening to today. It's a version of Mood Indigo, composed by Duke Ellington. It's on the album Masterpieces of Ellington, which was one of the first LPs, long-playing records. And Ellington used it to his advantage by, had Billy Strayhorn write a 15-minute arrangement of Mood Indigo. It has jazz counterpoint in it. It goes through different keys. It has a vocal. And Billy Strayhorn, I believe, is the pianist on it. And you can hear some flourishes and classical influences that wouldn't have come out in Ellington's playing, although it kind of sounds like it's Ellington a little bit. So Billy Strayhorn was straddling that line between his own style and Ellington. It's really wonderful. So Mood Indigo on the album Masterpieces by Ellington is my take for that. I'll have to put a link in the description to that. So let's start out with just the right hand in the key of F. So F major scale has a B flat in it. B flat. All the others are white notes. So no B naturals. 90% chance you're going to hit a B natural at some point, but don't worry about it. Everybody's got to do that about 100 times before they remember. So don't worry about that. Just go to B flat or C after. And what we're going to do is we did the whole notes yesterday, where we were just improvising with whole notes and really hearing that next note. Let's start with whole notes today. I'll start and then get you started. 1, 2, 1, 2, me only. notes. Watch me. Something different, so don't let me throw you, but I think it'll sound nice when you're listening to yourself playing and me. So 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. Keep going. So there was like sort of like bells. Let's try that again. So you're on the 1 and 3. I'm on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I love counterpoint, and that's kind of a little bit like a counterpoint. All right, so let's give the right hand a little break. And then we're just going to play an F major 7th chord in the left hand. F, A, C, E. If you want, you can leave the 5th out, the C out, because just play it with all 4 notes, F, A, C, E, and listen to it. Now leave the C out of it. It's not much different. The 5th of the chord, first of all, it's kind of there as an overtone. We can't really hear it, but the F is producing a C as an overtone somewhere in there, so it's kind of there already. But the 5th of a chord, unless it's raised or lowered, but a regular 5th, is kind of like, it doesn't define the chord. It's not the root, and it's not the 3rd, which makes it major or minor, or the 7th, which makes it a 7th. It's like in cooking. If you're making soup, and you want to make it a little thicker, but you don't want to change the flavor. You can put in like rice flour or mashed potatoes, or I don't know, if it's a sauce, you can put in cornstarch or something, or just flour. That doesn't change the flavor so much, but it adds thickness. So that's what the 5th does. So by leaving it out, you're playing something a little thinner, but also it's not as tough on your hand, you know? If you're playing a million things, you can, it's a little lighter texture, and it's just easier to play. Up to you. I play with the 5th all the time, but if you want, I do also without it. All right, so the idea is that in your left hand, we're just gonna we're comping. And the idea is that you're going to try to experiment where you don't play the same part of the measure all the time. So it might be right on the first beat, like now on beat 2. Now 1, 2, bum. And you're anticipating some of the beats. And now you play a long one, and you wait for a long time. And now you go on the and of 2. 1, 2, and 3, and now you go like ba-da. See? So you just have fun and you try different things. I'll do it too. I'm going to do it with my right hand, so I'll be an octave higher. This is an F major 7 chord with your left hand, no right hand at all. The idea is to develop a flexible approach. Mainstream jazz piano since the 40s has had a flexible approach to comping. Similar to the role that a drummer has with the snare drum. They're not playing on 2 and 4 like a rock drummer, or maybe even sometimes in shuffle music or some forms of jazz. They're basically playing it's kind of like a dance over the beat. So here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. And it's okay to leave space, not playing. Is nice to do over a walking bass line. It's relatively easy to get used to it. It might take a few months, but that's still relatively easy in our development. Playing it solo piano took me years. It took me probably definitely 5 years, and even then it wasn't always so natural. I'd speed up the tempo or just felt a little stiff. I could solo over a walking bass line as a teenager, which most people don't get so easily. But ask me to go. And I used to ask everybody for advice. I'd go up to people after concerts, well-known pianists, and just say, how do I get that? They don't have something to say, kind of what worked for them. But really what got me was that I got to listen to my piano teacher, Billy Taylor, play sometimes when he was just practicing. Sometimes he'd let me listen to him practice for an hour. And he often just played like whole notes. He'd go. And I realized his right hand was dancing so much that he didn't have to play more. And then I started doing that, and then I could start putting in notes here and there. So it's part of the journey. I never minded not sounding good. That was what I had going for me. And I still don't, actually. I instead just sort of slow down like we're doing and start listening more, and it starts sounding better. Okay, so let's trade 8 measures back and forth. And you're just going to play one hand or the other. We're going to continue what we did last time, still in the key of F, with playing what you hear, and leaving some space to reconnect your ear. Okay, what's the next note I hear? Down, down, repeat, something like that. And you're going to do 8 measures, and I'm going to comp behind you. And then you're going to play just the left hand comping, and I'm going to solo. So you're not doing both at the same time, but it will eventually become both, because what we're doing is we're sort of alternating, we are alternating, and that will eventually, just going back and forth, lets our brain connect them somehow in a good way, long-term good way. All right, so why don't you start with soloing, and I'll count behind you. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. But a common thing that people do, especially in the beginning and intermediate stages, is they comp too much. Lots too much, and it gets in the way. I don't say it's a mistake, because that might develop into your style. You don't want to squash somebody's potential by giving them too much direct, small instruction at the beginning. But just be aware of that. Often I'll only comp once a measure. Occasionally twice, and sometimes leaving a whole measure go by. The rhythm is being carried by the bass, and if there's drums, you don't have to carry the rhythm. All you're doing is sort of prodding it along and interacting a little with the soloist and supporting the soloist. So there's really not a lot of pressure in terms of comping rhythms. 1, 2, start with comping. flies by, right? You get into that groove and you just want to keep going. So this is awesome. So what we're doing is we're staying on one chord, which actually focuses you on really hearing melodically. Sometimes when we play over chord changes, even though they're harder to play at first, there's a built-in interest already, you know, because that's what happened with the beboppers. It became just running the chords for most of them, you know, running scales and stuff, and arpeggios through the chords, and then people like Miles Davis said, wait a minute, we want to go to playing over one chord modally, or just one scale, because it forces us to be creative. It forces us to play real melodies and real melodic impulses from the heart like we're doing here. Other beboppers like Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker never had a problem with it. But if you really listen to the recordings, a lot of players are just kind of going through the chords, and Miles got fed up. He said, we need to freshen the music up again. So you could look at post-bop as various ways to do that. Some people got more bluesy, some went avant-garde, some went modal, some went cool jazz or combinations. They were all attempts at keeping the music fresh. When it started to get stale, for many of them, stale, felt like Sinatra. Stale, you know how he does that S thing when he sings. So, hey, this is great. So we'll look at the key of G tomorrow, and then continue with our continuous melodic lines with quarter notes tomorrow, and then eighth notes the day after. So thanks for being here. I'm loving it. You can hear my playing is just staying fresh too. I love teaching because it keeps me playing the best I can too. So thank you very much. Please leave a comment with your either your favorite jazz recording, a particular tune, or a favorite, or several even. And if you want to put the YouTube link or just list the name, you know, I did Masterpieces by Ellington, Mood Indigo, arranged by Billy Strayhorn. Thanks, and there's some links for you to click, including another video that I think you may enjoy. Have a great rest of your day or evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.